Negotiations are continuing today when it comes to price caps relating to coal and gas. So let's bring in the Shadow Home Affairs Minister, Karen Andrews. Karen, good to see you. So first of all, do you support price caps for states to lead the charge on that, and primarily Queensland and New South Wales?
Look, I think it's a little bit too early for me to comment on that, simply because there is a lack of detail from the government about exactly what they are proposing, what the implications are. Now, we know that the proposal is for there to be a price cap. We know that there are negotiations happening with the states and territories, or they will happen, in relation to compensation for loss of royalties. What we haven't heard is how this is going to directly impact the prices that consumers are paying for electricity, and what is the impact going to be on prices and bills over the next few months, maybe years. So I think, once again, what we're seeing is that the federal government hasn't gone in with a longer-term plan, longer-term vision. They wasted their time when they were in opposition figuring out how they were going to manage things when they got elected, and now they're in a position of scrambling around. And let's be clear, the money that they are going to be negotiating and spending, giving to the states for compensation, is actually taxpayers' dollars. So effectively what they're using is taxpayers' money to give compensation to the states, with the objective of making sure that there's a reduction in power prices for individuals. I mean, they need to come up with a lot more detail and a longer-term plan, and it's just not there.
Right. So, I mean, we can all agree that something has to be done, though, right?
Yeah. Absolutely something.
Okay, so if it's not price caps, if it's not caps on coal or gas for that matter, what would you suggest would be a better alternative than that?
Well, I think let's see what the negotiations are with the states and territories. Let's understand what the federal government is actually putting at this point of time, and let's understand clearly what the impact is going to be on people's power bills, because at this stage, the Labor government was elected on a promise of people's bills going down, $275. They've walked away from that. They've refused to recommit to that post-winning the election. Now they're going to spend even more of taxpayers' money giving compensation to the states. So let's look at what they have to say, but they need to be looking at what they're going to do short-term and also what they're going to do longer-term. And hopefully Australia's energy minister is going to be able to do more than one thing at a time, and can look at what he's doing with coal, what he's doing with gas, what he's doing with renewables, and how he's going to bring power prices down.
Right. I mean, it can be dangerous to assume, but would you presume at all that if prices are capped at half the current levels that they are now, that people would see their power bills cut in half?
Well, it depends very much on what the electricity generators are going to be doing. Now, I don't know that they're at the table. It appears that they're not. It appears that there's been very limited negotiations with the energy producers. So at this stage, it's really just an exchange of money between the federal government, which is taxpayers' money, and the state.
Well, I mean, your state of Queensland announced yesterday massive revenue windfall. Is that not an example of how that revenue can be shared with the punters?
Well, potentially. I mean, it was certainly a windfall that came through for the state government in Queensland, with the royalties from coal in particular. Now, royalties have traditionally been used to upgrade roads, to go into our hospitals, to do a whole range of things that immediately impact consumers, the people of Australia. So if that money is going to reduce power bills, then what happens to hospitals? What happens to roads? I mean, infrastructure right around Australia needs some significant upgrades, and that will be a continuing issue.
Right, so does the Queensland government deserve a pat on the back for doing that? Because it was quite controversial at the time to increase the taxes on those companies. But that is a staggering windfall there, and does that prove that it was probably right not to privatise?
Well, they made more money out of it. So
and that goes back, and then that goes back to the people, and I think the Premier said yesterday that they'll be tipping that into hospitals.
Yeah, and that's the Labor way of doing things. It's increasing taxes, so it's a perfect example of what a Labor government does. So, in this case, there's been an increase in taxes that has affected the companies who are now paying those taxes. I mean, it really just sounds as if sometimes what the Labor governments do is rob Peter to pay Paul, and that's not what they should be doing.
Okay, just a final thought here on this breaking news that we're running with this morning, Karen. One of the main bomb makers from the Bali bombings, he's been released considerably early. He was Umar Patek. He was due to face 20 years behind bars. He's now walked free, or will be walking free after just 12. Have you got a thought on that?
Oh, look, that's terribly disappointing. And for all those people who have been impacted by his actions, I mean, this is a really sad day for them. Now, I know that the Home Affairs Minister was in Indonesia earlier this week, and I would hope she raised some serious concerns in her meetings over there about the potential release of this individual. And they're questions that she needs to start answering as well, too. I mean, why was she in Indonesia? Surely the release of this individual should have been a top priority for her. So I'm hoping to hear more on that.
Okay, Karen Andrews, appreciate that. Thank you. We'll talk to you again soon.